are the masses. And what happens is, I would like Bhai also to speak about it in detail. Many politicians who interact with us always tell us very frankly, very openly, that the demands of people, once they become MLAs, or once people come to know that they are going to contest an election and they will be MLAs, are absurd. One of the former minister told me that his daily outlay in his constituency, daily, was close to around 45 to 50,000 rupees per day. That is the kind of demand people come to you. Somebody wants the MLA to build a temple or a chapel, or somebody wants them to paint the chapel or a temple, or take care of the flooring of the temple. These are the kind of demands people come to the MLA. We don't do it ourselves. We don't spend money from our own pockets. We want MLA to spend everything. We want MLA to sponsor the tournament. We want MLAs to give everything. Everything. So I think Vijay comes from Salsit, so he will be in a much better position to speak about this. But these are the kind of absurd expectations we put on our public representatives. And we all know what they end up doing to satisfy those expectations. So when we talk about distrust, I think we also need to introspect about our conduct. What are our realistic expectations from our elected representatives? But when we come to the opinion making class or the activists or the NGOs, I don't feel we constitute even 5% of the electorate. Very frankly, as Praveen said, whether we can convert this into a political force and we contest election. If 10 people from this room decide to contest elections, whether one of them will get elected. If none of them can get elected, then we have a serious problem, and even we need to introspect what we are doing. And whether what the masses want and what we perceive as the correct thing for the masses. So I would like Bhai also to speak about it, and I would like Vijay also to speak about it. The kind of pressures they face from their constituency or people or the electorate when they become MLAs, when they become ministers, and how difficult is it to manage them.
As I understand, there were 2 points raised here. One is about the huge rise in activism in Goa, which has created a discomfort with the business lobby, since there are times when activists end up creating unnecessary hurdles in the path of development. This is one part. This has happened obviously because of complete lack of faith in the government. So lack of faith is the second part. If Goa is to progress with good jobs and opportunities coming up, the faith has to be restored in governance, and this is the topic of discussion. Okay, so far as the activism is concerned, I will just make a very short opinion about it. If some building comes up and a group of activists come and create a problem, naturally the developer will have his own points to make. In my opinion, activism is good, and activism has to be tolerated. Of course, there is always a time frame up to which you can tolerate it. I will translate a Marathi idiom which says, more or less in English, that your worst critic must be your closest neighbor. That's a saying. So if you have a worst critic as your closest neighbor, you will be on your toes all the time. And will be able to make out and determine what you must do and what you should not do. In a state like Goa, which is very small, where public are fully conscious of what is right and what is wrong, and where a sizable group of activists have been carrying on the different activities, I suggest that each of these points should be taken up and debated. And there could be a time spent for this purpose. I heard the last suggestions made by you about using technology for the purpose of eliciting opinion of the public. There could be referendums. But not the referendums of the type which the channels carry on. They put up a question and says, come on, vote, yes or no. Now within that 24 hours time limit, I don't think anybody can really form an informed opinion about an issue. But this is, supposing now, let us take the issue of the coconut tree. Whether it is a palm or whether it is a piece of it's a grass or whatever, whether we should allow the government to cut it or not. I think this needed some discussion over a sufficient long period of time. So if people of Goa were informed about it, government putting forward their points of view, which did not come forward except in the assembly, whatever they said, and the opposition. If this was properly debated at the village level, it was properly debated in forums like this, and then at the end of it, a referendum is held, to which government should be a party. They must also agree. They should put this forward before the public and say, okay, we want that this tree needs to be cut in the interest of development of Goa. What is your opinion? Why we say this? Put forward your case. Let whoever wants to oppose put forward their cases, and then an informed decision could have been arrived at. That has not happened. Number two, whether the forest, the recent issue, whether the forest should be allowed to be used for the purpose of whatever, ecotourism or not. This also needed a proper discussion. This is not happening. I believe somewhere in the abroad, in some countries, for example in America, as I understand, 7th of January every year is the day of election. 7th or 7th November, January or November? November. 7th of November every year is the day of election. All elections of counties, states, senate, even president of that country takes place on that particular day. So if that is the case, and then that day is also used for the purpose of referendum, questions are put in, the counties put their questions. We want to have an 8-lane super highway passing through our state. This is debated. And then on that particular day, the voting takes place. If the people want it, it goes ahead. If the people do not want it, it does not go ahead. I think activism could be regulated more or less in this fashion. This is a thought, I am just putting it off the cuff because, I wasn't aware of the exact topic that would be discussed. Then about faith in the government. Of course, it's a cycle. I'm of the opinion always that in a democratic setup like ours, every 5 years or every 3 years gives you an opportunity to change the government. So if you lose faith in the government, you change that government. Like last time, the Congress government, people lost faith in the Congress government and the new government has come in. But the problem that we see with each government that comes in is that these people feel that once they are elected, they get the entire mandate of the populace to take whatever decision that they can take. This is where checks and balances are required. This is not happening. We have seen this example happening today on the cooperatives. Another decision I found that the dairy from Amul dairy is being invited. I was told there are some vested interest in that, why it is being invited. You have an existing dairy, you have about 130 cooperatives elsewhere, and yet you want to bring in on a spacious plea that this will give rise to a healthy competition. Is it a healthy competition? Who has discussed this? Have you heard the stakeholders in this? No, government has not heard any stakeholder in this case. As a juggernaut, they are moving ahead with the decision. If the local dairy crumbles under this weight of this juggernaut, you will realize the consequences after say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. By the time these, somebody will call them jockeys or johnnies, whatever, they won't be there around to answer this. They'll say government. So new government has come. Let the new government take the decision, whatever they want. So in these circumstances, the question of faith becomes relatively an issue about which none of us can really pass any comment or any piece of judgment. Whom do you send in the assemblies? Okay, I'll say send me. I am one of the best among the rest. I'll say that. Everybody will say that. And then, as my friend Pramod was mentioning, how is the electorate reacting to these aspirations of the would-be MLAs and MPs and village panchayat members? Their response is very clear, as mentioned here. Today morning, my day started with a group of youngsters coming to me with a pamphlet where they have given an estimate of a carnival float. It's about 7.5 lakh rupees, according to them. They need a truck for 4 days. They need a generator for it. Then the participants, then the dress and all, and music and all sort of things. And they say, we expect from you a sizable amount. I said, I'm begging for my school there. Are you aware? They have not read that, all that. That Kali Topi and my Satyagraha, they are not aware of it. And they would not get up, would not say anything. This is what we want. Finally, okay, the whole aspect is you are a politician. They don't say that I don't go to courts now, therefore my earning is limited. I don't carry on any business, my earning is limited. They are not bothered about it. What they feel is, well, you are a politician, you are likely to contest, and money is not a problem for you at all. And this is not today's issue. This has been going on every year by year, election by election. I have noted this because I had a sufficiently long evenings in the Goan Assembly. I have noted this, that people have decided, they have concluded, if Khalap is contesting or Vijay is contesting or even Cleopat or any one of you contesting, you have a kitty which you have earned not out of your sweat. They are very clear about it. They say you have not earned it out of your sweat, you have earned it by dubious means. So share it with us. Somebody was mentioning about this temple thing. I have this experience of a youngster boy, 14-year-old, coming forward and telling me, you see this chapel and that Tulsi Vrindavan next to it. In one of our villages we have that, very close by. And I say, do this. I said, boy, where do I get the money from? If this is the concept, this is the impression that the youngsters and the population carries, I think less said better about the fate of your democracy. So how do we restore it? Well, I leave the issue to open to the public. Thank you so much.
Before opening it to all of you, I'd just like to narrate one incident which one of the MLAs from the ruling party told me a few days back. There was an Indian Super League final between Goa and Chennai. And the tickets were not available because we were the broadcast partners of FC Goa. So I know the internal workings of it. But the final tickets were completely controlled by ISL. They were not controlled by FC Goa, although the match was happening in FC Goa. Because the basic argument of ISL was, it is your luck that you have reached the final. If Goa had not reached the final, the rest of the two teams would have played the final. So we cannot give you the hold over the tickets. There was so much pressure on the MLAs that one of the MLAs told me there were 250 people standing in his garden from 6 a.m. in the morning on the final day because tickets were not available and they were just not ready to move. He said, it's not my tournament. It's a league centrally controlled. Even the club owners are telling me that they don't have tickets. What should I do? And the people said, we don't know. You do whatever you have to do. We want the tickets or we are not moving out from here. As Ricardo said, we can gherav them inside their house. They actually did it. But for the wrong purpose. They actually did it and that I cannot call him poor fellow because he's a very rich MLA. But his garden was completely destroyed. It was completely destroyed and he has to entirely redo it because for 6 to 7 hours people were just standing there pressurizing him, give us tickets or we are not going to move out from here and you'll have to face this in the election. So those are the kind of threats our MLAs face on such small issues. Before moving there, candidly Vijay, what is, I think you don't sponsor a float and all, you sponsor entire carnival. So what is your carnival?